morning. We are here. We're here. Live on Facebook. Idea Studio Live. Come sign in and say hi to us. Let's see if I can find some of our new kids. Are we on Do Not Disturb, Joey? Okay, let's see. We'll see if Reagan and Emma and Peyton joined us, and we got Alexis, and we got Brianna and Brady and Eliza Jane. Love that name, Eliza Jane. Let's see, we got two Landons out there. We'll see if Ella Hunter found us. Hannah, and it sounds like Hannah and Sabina. I might be saying that all wrong. I'll have to find out. I think they do ballet together. Abigail and Mallory. We got lots of Benjamins out there. Benjamin has a big brother, Peter, and a big sister, Ellie, and another sister, Sarah Grace. And we got Benjamin that is with, I think, a brother, Charles. Yep. We got Anna Marie.
For some reason,
and
your screen's
Nicholas.
not adjusted right.
We got the Price family out there. Ella and Finn, right? I know Mom, Stacy, and Dad, Mickey. Yeah. I got Connor and Haley. Connor and Haley's mom's already ordered a bag. Are we not streaming? We are streaming. Mr. Joey and Mr. Mark are making faces, so something's not working right, I'm guessing. But as long as you can hear me and see me, I don't know what's going on with them.
The screen's not adjusted right. Keep going.
Okay, so we're watching for everybody to get signed in. When you come log on, be sure and type in a little comment so we know who's out there, that people have gotten signed on. We don't want to start our project. Oh, I didn't hold our project up so you can see.
You got a bunch of people here.
We're using this very cool. We're using our black paper this week and doing this very cool silhouette. We're going to use some of our colored pencils. And you know how you had a toothbrush in your activity bag this week? Some people even got some colorful toothbrushes at the end of stuffing bags. But we're going to use that toothbrush today. We're actually going to use the toothbrush to make stars in the sky. See our cool stars? We're going to do a cool silhouette. This silhouette, we did one a couple weeks ago with black paper. This silhouette's actually going to use more than just the white colored pencil. We're going to put a little color into this silhouette. So this nice big full moon is lighting up the sky enough that we're going to see some of the blue in the water and the blue in the sky still. So we're going to do a silhouette today. If you're gathering all your stuff, you got your activity bag. We're going to need a couple things out of your activity bag today. Put those over there. We are going to use your colored pencils. I've just taken mine out of their rubber band. They're in a cup here so I can pull the colors I want easier. We're actually going to use the white and both blues. I think we got a light blue and a dark blue. Okay. And we're going to use our black. So we're using black paper, but we're also going to use a black colored pencil. There's a styrofoam plate. I think you should still have another styrofoam plate. We used one yesterday with our watercolor when we were doing bumblebees, but I think you had two styrofoam plates. So we need a styrofoam plate that we're going to use our toothbrush with. And then you got a little pot of white paint in your activity bag. There's very little paint in there. We hardly use any paint when we do splatter. But we're going to use the little pot also. We're going to use the bottom of the pot to draw the circle for our moon. So pull out your little white pot of paint. We're going to need your toothbrush. So you can take some toothbrushes. These little white toothbrushes were in a little plastic bag. Some of you had big colorful toothbrushes that came out of a pack. So pull out your toothbrush. Get your other styrofoam plate. Get your colored pencils out. And then today we're using that piece of black paper that was clipped on your clipboard. Okay? So get your black paper. We're going to do a vertical. And we see silhouettes on here. So we're going to have the moon. We're going to reflect the moon in some water here. We're going to make ourselves a cool tree over here. So we're going to look at how to draw a tree. I've got an owl sitting in my tree. You're the artist, so you could could decide you want a whole family of birds over here. You could have an owl and a baby owl. You could have a whole row of little Carolina wrens sitting on the edge of the branch. We're going to talk about how to make the bird so he looks like he's lit up by the moonlight, so we don't really see a highlight on the whole bird, do we? Same as with the tree, we're only going to see a highlight on part of the tree, and we're going to let the black paper and our black colored pencil do the rest of the work. This could be, we could be sitting over here at South Beach looking across to Defusky maybe. Maybe we are sitting, I think if you sit in Port Royal, would you look across at Tybee Island? We're going to see a little bit of land over here. See my little bit of land over here? Joey's making face.
If you're on Port Royal, you're looking at Paris Island.
Oh, Paris Island. Joey says if you were sitting in Port Royal, you'd look at Paris Island. We're going to put our moon up here, and I've used a little bit of our blue, so we get this really cool arrangement of color. And then the funnest part is we're going to splatter stars in the sky. So that's the fun part. If you've got your black paper, I'm going to let Mr. Joey pull the camera in. Oh, and I need to get myself another piece of black paper. So I think before Joey pulls the camera in, I'm going to have him get me a piece of black paper so I can show you how we're going to draw on here. We're going to use the white colored pencil to draw with. So get out your white colored pencil. If you've already used your white colored pencil, like when we've done projects before, you could go get it sharpened. We want to make sure we got enough white colored pencil to use. And I'm going to put my paper down here. Mr. Joey's going to move the camera in. Move that. Move my bag over here out of the way. We're going to put this one down here. Put this one right here. And let's let Mr. Joey get all adjusted here, so you guys will be able to see really well. I got to move my big feet down here so I don't kick Joey's tripod.
You have one question.
And we've got a question.
To Moko. For the animal on the branch, can she make a cat?
Ooh, yes. Elizabeth's mom asked a couple questions, and Mr. Joey already thought about it. Mr. Joey's brought me extra paper. So what's really cool about our projects is there's a lot of you out there that have different favorite things you'd like to draw. I always try to come up with projects that we can learn a little bit about how to do parts of it, but then you're the artist, so you can get creative. If you don't want an owl sitting up in the tree here, a cat, you know how cats sometimes like to climb trees and lay on the branches? We could make a cat up here. So what I'll do is we're going to block in some basic landscape here and talk about how we're going to do that. When we get up here to the tree of what we're going to put on the tree, I'll show how to draw an owl up here on the tree. But then I got some extra paper here. Mr. Joey's so smart. We'll look at putting different branches on here, and we could look at how to draw a cat up here. Maybe we'll draw a whole family of little birds up here. What else? And you could be thinking why we do this, what all you might see up in a tree. I guess you could even see a big old python snake coiled around the tree with its little head sticking off. Don't think we'd see that here in Hilton Head, but I was thinking a Jungle Book, the big coiled snake up in the branch. So you be thinking, and before we get to the tree, that'll be one of the last things we put on. You be thinking of different things you might want to put there. Same down here. We see the ground reflected in the moonlight down here. Could we put something, maybe we could put a person sitting, leaning against the tree, just watching the stars. I used to love to go outside and look at the constellations up in the sky. You can find all the stars that make up the Big Dipper or Orion's Belt. So maybe we have a person sitting right down here too. So we'll use some extra paper here when we get to blocking in our ground, and we'll block in our horizon up here where the water meets the sky. This is our horizon line. So we'll block in things like that. We're going to block in our moon in relation to where our tree is going to be, because we wouldn't want to put the moon over here. If we want the moonlight to light up the edge of things, then we're going to put our things over here, and put the moon over here so that the light from the moon is shining and lighting up the things that we're drawing. So we'll walk in some basic outline and some basic landscape here, and then we'll talk about things we could add. I think a person sitting down here would be cool. I think a cat laying on the branch up here would be really cool. Cats seem to be very sure of themselves. If you notice, we've got stars in the sky here that we splattered at the end. So actually then, we don't want the stars to look like they're in front of the tree. So I actually went back in. We've used our black colored pencil in a couple places. We made part of our horizon back here really dark. We made some of our ground here really dark. And we made the other side of our tree trunk really dark. So some places where the moonlight's shining, we've made the other side get even darker than the paper, which gives us a wide variety of darks in this picture, which is kind of fun. So we'll splatter our stars, and if they might go over our cat or over our tree, we'll come back with our black pencil to block them out. We've got a few little reflections of our stars down here in the water, which is kind of cool. So I'm going to keep our extra papers. We'll talk about adding things. The first thing we're going to do is kind of block in this landscape. So we want to start with our white paper, our white colored pencil. We're going to lightly, really lightly, so don't press hard. We're going to really lightly draw in where we want things because we don't want a really bright white line on both sides of our tree. So we're going to press lightly with your white pencil so that we can see it on the black paper. And then we'll come back in where we want to add more white and make it really show up. But the first thing I'm going to do is draw this horizon line. Now, those of you that have ever drawn with me before, I always talk about you have to draw what's in the foreground, what's closest to you first. So, what's closest to me on this drawing? Not the horizon line, because what's in front of the horizon line? Give me one of our clipboards. In front of the horizon line is this tree. So if I drew my horizon line first, I'm going to have a line going right through my tree, aren't I? So I think actually what we'll do before we draw this horizon line, we're going to make a little bit of ground down here, and we're going to put our tree in. Then I can bump into the tree, jump over, and continue here. And we want a really nice straight line. Horizon lines are usually pretty straight. And rather than have to go find a ruler right now, everybody's papers were on some sort of stiff board so that they didn't get wrinkled in the bag. This one's a red board. Some of you had red boards, some of you had green boards, some of you had cardboard boards. But our boards work really well because they're cut on a nice, perfect 90-degree angle here. So when we get to where we want to put our horizon line, we can lay a board down like this. I can line up one side with the side of my paper. Just like that. I'll make sure it's nice and even on the side of my paper. And then that lets me draw a line across for my horizon. But, like I said, if I drew the horizon line right now, I'll have a line going through my tree. And rather than have to cover up that line, we're going to draw our ground and our tree first. Now, since my horizon line was going to be really, really straight up here, I kind of wanted my ground not to be absolutely straight too. That would look just a little boring, I thought. Now, could you make your ground be nice and flat? Hilton Head doesn't have very many hills, does it? So if you'd like your ground to be flatter, you can. You could make your ground even hillier. It could come way down here and have another hill way over here if you wanted to. You could pretend we were someplace with hills, maybe upstate South Carolina. So this line that we're going to make, you can make however you would like. I kind of like that my ground came down here and then back up, kind of formed this nice little circle for the middle of my picture because this was going down, my moon's coming up like this, so I kind of liked that. But you can make your ground however you would want. What we want to think about is our horizon line's going to be right along in here because we want to have lots of space up in our sky to put stars. That's the fun part. So if you find the middle of your paper, here's about the middle of my paper, we're going to put the horizon line below that. And we want to have a little bit of room to put some water because it's really cool to learn how to make reflections in the water. So we don't want our ground to come up too high. We don't want to have our ground way up here because then we'd run out of room for all the other cool stuff. So I'm going to come just a little ways up on this side and very lightly with my pencil. Can you see that? I'm going to just come along here. I don't even have to make a line, a solid line all the way across. So I made a little bit of a hill. It came downhill a little bit, and then it came back up on this other side. Now, is this side higher than that side? Yeah, a little bit, isn't it? Which I kind of like. I never like my everything to match too much. So you can make your ground however you would like. Just very lightly make a line, and like you can see with mine, you don't even have to make the line solid all the way across. We're just giving ourselves a guideline where we're going to come back and put some more white. Now, you could pick to put your tree over here. You could put your tree over here. We kind of don't want to put the tree right in the middle because we want the middle to have all this really cool looking reflection in the water. And if the tree was right there, it'd be a little hard to see. So since we want the moon on one side, whatever we're going to draw, we want on the other side. So you kind of decide if your moon's going to be over here like mine, then we're going to put a tree over here. Okay? Now, look at my tree. This is one thing I want you to think about when you draw a tree. We talk about this a lot in our classes here. Trees always get a little smaller as they go up. See how wide my trunk is here? Look how wide my trunk is down here. Now, I don't go from a trunk this big to a trunk this skinny in just a few feet on my tree, but gradually, as the tree goes up, it gets skinnier. And when a limb goes off the tree, the limb has to be skinnier than the tree trunk is right there. And as the limb goes out, it gets skinnier and skinnier and skinnier. Now, does the limb come out like this and just end in a line? No, that would be like if somebody went and pruned the tree limb, if it was a dead tree limb and they had to cut it off. And since our tree is very healthy, we don't want to cut our limbs off. So when we draw limbs, they're going to come out until they get skinny, 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 just to a single line here. This limb had another little twig come off it that way. So we kind of want to draw our tree, and maybe about halfway up in our sky, we're going to put a limb coming over. So we can put a cat or an owl or a Carolina wren or a
Monkey.
Oh, a monkey could be sitting up there. Yeah, Joey's going to send us off to Africa or South America. We could put a monkey. We could put a big python wrapped around, coiled around the tree. That might be kind of fun.
Find both of those in Florida.
Oh, this is true. Mr. Joey pointed out, now that people have kind of illegally or accidentally brought things into this country, animals that don't belong here, we've got pythons in Florida. And we have monkeys in Florida. And we have monkeys here, out in Bluffton. So we could put just about anything on this tree limb. So we are going to stick a tree limb coming out on this side, and then we can add some more at the top if we want. Look as you can see my tree going all the way to the top here. See how skinny it is up here? Gets a little fatter down here, a little fatter down here, and a little fatter down here. Okay? So I'm going to start over on this side. I want to leave a little space on the side over here, because I want to see a little bit of my water in my sky and some stars on the other side of my tree too. So I'm going to start in maybe about this much. I'm going to start down here at the bottom, and remember we're pressing really lightly with our pencil. I'm going to draw this side first on my tree. So I'm going to come up. I want to have enough room to have the tree trunk thick down here. So if this is how wide my tree trunk's going to be, that leaves some good space there. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to start up my tree, and let's see, I'll get to about the middle of the paper. This is about the middle of the paper. So I want to go just a little bit above the middle of the paper. I'm about to the middle of my paper. So I'm going to go just a little higher, and then I'm going to turn the corner and come out here until I'm about halfway across my paper. We don't want to come all the way over here because I got to have room to put the moon here, and the moon's got to shine over here on whatever's going to sit on our tree limb. So bring this limb horizontally. We're going across the paper. Mine goes up just a little ways, see? Instead of going straight across, trees never really do anything very straight. So we're going to come about halfway across the paper. Now remember how I said limbs get really skinny out at the end, and then they get a little bigger as they go back, but they just don't want to be bigger than the trunk. So I could go from this point where my tree limb stopped here, and I'll make my line really close to it and let it get just a little wider, little wider, little wider as it gets back here. Now, when I imagine this is where the tree trunk was, I want to stop with my limb there. This is going to be where I sit something. An owl or a cat or a python. I might coil a snake. I think that sounds kind of fun. Okay? Now, I think it'll be kind of interesting to see a few more limbs on the top of my tree. I'm imagining this is winter maybe, or this is a tree that's lost all its leaves. Okay? So I'm going to keep coming up. Remember, I started down here. I'm coming up. I made a limb go off, so I'm going to come up a little ways more. And maybe I'll have a limb go reaching higher into the sky. We'll make this limb go up like that. And then when I turn around, remember the limb gets skinny at the end. I might have that limb just go all the way off the top of my paper. But I still want it to be skinny when I come back on my paper. I'm going to be really close to that line. I'm going to keep my copycat line really close to it. Let it get just a little bit wider as it comes down. I don't want this limb wider than this limb, right? The farther up you go on a tree, the skinnier things get. Okay, so that limb came up there. How about if we continue our tree and maybe do one more? It might come more towards this limb. Kind of like that. Maybe it'll bump and jump behind that limb. Make the other side of it. It's getting really skinny compared to that one, right? Maybe I'll make another little limb go off of it here. So these little limbs are almost like little twigs. They're pretty small. And then I'm going to let my tree just go right off the top of the page there. So I got kind of interesting tree going on here. I need to make the other side of my tree. And I think since I got a limb going here, and I got a couple limbs going here, I might make a limb going off the other side, like right in between them. Maybe I'll make it go off over here. That will kind of look like an interesting mix of limbs. So when I come down to the bottom, remember I want my tree to be wider at the bottom. Am I bumping your camera? So I'm going to come over here. I want to draw this side of my tree really lightly. I mean, I can go over it with my black colored pencil, but I want to try not to make it too dark. So I'm going to draw lightly here. And I made it really wide at the bottom. I got all the way up to here to go. So I'm going to get just a little skinnier as I go up. So we gradually get skinnier and skinnier and skinnier. Remember I said I was going to go past this limb and maybe go off in the middle of those limbs. So let's take a limb and go off this way. And I want this limb to be a little wider like this one. Don't want it to be as skinny as these. So I'm going to make the other side of this limb go off the page. Then I can keep continuing up this side of the tree. What do you think? You think we need another limb off there? I'm thinking maybe another one up here. So maybe we'll make one come off over here. And I'll make it a little skinnier here than this one. And maybe it'll break off up here. So I can draw the other side of these two. They're going to get really skinny here. Really skinny. I kind of like that. Your tree can have as many limbs and arms on it as you want. It's kind of like drawing one of those multi-armed monster villains. Okay, I'm going to continue up the rest of my tree, so I want it to get a little smaller. This is the tree trunk, so it's never going to get as skinny as these things out here. But I'm going to bring it on up right off the page there. So that's where my tree is going to plot in. And do you remember what we're going to do next? Now that I got the tree plotted in, I know where my ground is here. I kind of want to determine where to put my moon. But to do that, I kind of need to see where the horizon line is going to be. This line going across here. And if we look at this one, this is about the middle of my paper. So we put the horizon line a little lower. We want to have enough space here to do some cool water, but we still want to leave a lot of space for the sky. So take that piece of cardboard that you got, that your papers were clipped on, and kind of decide. I think I'm going to put my horizon line right along here. So remember what I said? We're going to line up one side of your cardboard with the side of your paper. Make sure that lines up nice and straight there. Got it lined up. And then I'm going to take my white pencil and I'm going to trace. Now, when I bump into the tree, you want to stop. I don't want to draw a line through my tree. So I'm going to start over here. I'm going to draw a line across. When I bump into the tree, I'm going to jump over it. And then keep my line going on this other side. That's all I need my piece of cardboard for. So, see if you can get your horizon lines on there. Remember, when you get to the tree, bump into it and jump over it. We got some cool horizons. Our picture's starting to take shape. Got like all the outlines of everything. Everything looks very flat right now, doesn't it? Now, here's the fun part. We're going to draw a moon up here. And to make that perfect little circle, you know what I used? I used the bottom of my little paint pot. See how it fits right on that moon? So take your little paint pot of white paint that we got out. And think about, you're going to put something on this limb. So look at where your limb is on your paper. The first one we drew that's sticking out this way. Look at where that limb is. And if something's sitting on that limb and we want it lit up by the moon, we don't want the moon to be down here below it, do we? Maybe kind of across from it. So all the light shining off this moon is going to hit the side of it. If we put the moon way up here, it would be lighting the top of its head, but not necessarily so much on the side. So we kind of want the moon off to the side from this limb. So take your little pot of paint. We're going to trace around the bottom of it. I guess you could trace around the top of it. That would be like one of those super moons. Mr. Joey wants us to make a super moon. Okay, should we make a big moon just for Mr. Joey? He wants it over here in a little bit more. There we go. Okay, he wants to make a super moon. You can use the bottom. The bottom's going to make your moon this size. I'm going to trace around the top and it's going to be even a little bit bigger. Just because Mr. Joey helps me each day. And if he wants me to draw a big moon, I thought it'd be nice to draw a big moon. So trace around. You got to hold your pot with one hand. Trace around it with your other hand, and you can put your pot of paint away for a minute. There's my big giant moon. I have super moon here. You can do small moon or you could do big moon. Okay? Now, before we stop and start coloring everything in, what's the last thing we need to kind of block out? And then we'll look at blocking in what's going to go on our limb. We need to give ourselves a little bit of land. I tried it with just sky up there and it looked a little boring. And I kind of like seeing this little hint of land here. Now, this is the look that if you were looking a mile across the water, like when we're on Hilton Head looking across at Defusky. The trees don't look much taller than this because it's actually a mile away. So these are tall trees, but when you look at something that's really, really far away, you have to make it really small. That helps give us our depth perspective. Because our picture's a flat piece of paper. It doesn't really go back, does it? But this is a way that you create depth by making faraway things very small. So, do I have a very even little line of scallops for my trees? Nope. Some are taller, some are shorter, some go up in here, some go down here, up here, down here. Tree lines never look perfect. If they looked really perfect, it would look like we were looking at somebody's few little curves.
Why did we lose it?
I don't know.
Are we back?
You're back.
Can you see me?
You're back.
We lost our video for a minute. Okay, we were talking about drawing some little trees on the horizon. So I'm kind of making just little scallops, little curves. And you don't have to draw a solid line across.
Just let some people catch up.
Kind, you lost us for a minute. we got our horizon line on here, remember? And we're going to put a few little trees here. These are the
Really lousy.
These are the tops of the trees. So we're wondering what's happened with our video. I think our internet's playing with us today. But I think we're okay. Okay, I'm gonna let y'all get caught up with me since our internet's being weird. And it looks like I'm freezing in places and you're not following me. Okay. So we're gonna make some little scallopy trees back here. But I want you to look at my picture. See how small they are? This is very small. They're almost right near the horizon line. Just in a few places they get a little taller. And we don't want to have it look really even. Then it would look like we were looking across at a wall or a hedge. Okay? So I'm going to put, and we don't need a solid line going all the way across. Sometimes it's better if you skip around. I'm going to come in here and put a few right there. So it's just kind of a little bit of a wavy line. I'm going to get some really down low, some really little trees right there. Put a few that are going to go behind my tree here. When I get to the tree, I bump into it and stop because we want these to look like they're behind it. So then I can come on the other side and make a few more. Okay, I'll put a few in here. Maybe we'll make a little taller one right in there. Okay, so I've got kind of a wavy, wiggly little line. I don't even have the line connected in all the places to make our horizon. Are we doing better with our video? Mm-hmm. Okay, now we're going to add some color to this. This is our nighttime silhouetted picture, but we're going to add some color to it. Now, so far everything looks pretty flat on here. We're going to make it look very three-dimensional all of a sudden. And I think what I'll do is start with our moon. And I'm going to color this moon in with your white colored pencil. If you look at my moon in the middle here, it's not quite so white. See how I've got a few little spots that a little bit of the black paper shows through? So take your white colored pencil. I discovered when we're coloring with colored pencil, instead of drawing right on the point like this, kind of lean your pencil. And we're kind of drawing with the side of the pencil like this. And since we want our moon to have the feeling that it's round, I'm not going to color straight across. I'm going to color in some curves like this. Okay? So instead of coloring straight lines like this to fill it in, that'll make our moon kind of look flat. Even though you don't see a lot of my lines, you see little bits of them. See how in some spots we see little gray instead of all white and a little black showing through? So when you're coloring, you want to color in a curve just like you were feeling the surface of a ball. That'll help our moon look like it's a little rounder. Okay? So color in the moon. Color the whole thing, and you can loosen the grip on your pencil and not press so hard. As I come to the top, I'm going to turn my curves to go the other way. So maybe up here at the top of the moon, we won't press quite so hard. See how when I'm pressing hard, we get more of a white color? And if I don't press so hard in the middle, I eased up a little on my pencil, so I'm not pressing so hard. And then I'm going to get a little different shade to it. Same idea as shading a ball. You always have a darker side on one side of a ball to make it look round. Well, we're using the negative space. When we start with black paper, that already gives us our shadow. So what we're doing, we're pressing the hardest where we want it the lightest. So the whitest you want is where you're going to press the hardest. And where we want it to have more of a shadow, we press less hard. That way we can use the black of the paper to help create our shadow here. So I'm going to fill in my moon. I'm going to make it nice and white around here. I want the whitest part of my moon to be down here and on this side that's facing our tree. Okay, so we'll keep that really white here. I'm gonna let a little of this darker shadow show through. Okay, is your moon starting to look like a round ball? Did you press not so hard on this part up here? So it kind of gives us this nice three-dimensional looking moon. This is my whitest part, so I've pressed the hardest over here. Okay, now we're gonna look at where else to put a reflection, then we're gonna look at drawing something on our limb here. We're gonna have a little bit of reflection on the top of the ground here. So I can come along the top of my ground where the moon's shining down on it. Now, what's really cool is leave a few little spaces. I'm just coloring back and forth for ground, but I'm also leaving some black showing. And if our moon's shining down like this, this is gonna be the lightest part of my ground. So I'm not gonna have too much light over here. So I'm gonna press lightly with my pencil over here. So I just barely see a little bit of moonlight lighting up here and leave some black spaces. Okay. We can put a little bit more over here and then let it get lighter as it goes out to the side.
You want to see it behind the tree.
What?
You want to see it behind the tree.
Right, we won't see it back here. The tree's gonna block the moonlight from getting there. That's why we were really light. Now, the tree, remember how we talked about using curvy lines to color on the moon? We want the side of the tree here to be lit up from the moonlight, but we want the light to be in curves so our tree looks like it's round. So I'm gonna start down here at the bottom, and I'm gonna put some, I'm gonna make a line come up the side like this, and then I'm gonna put some curved lines coming in. Now, did I make it solid? I don't want it to look like I'm painting a stripe on the side of the tree, so I let some black show through in some places. So work in one little space at a time. Come up the side, put some more curves on here until you get all the way up to this limb. We'll stop giving some highlights on our tree when we get to the limb. Do you notice down here at the base how my highlights go further across? And as it comes up, I'm not going as far across my tree. Okay, stop when you get to that limb. We'll put a little bit of highlight right down from where the moon's going to shine on our trees we made here. We can highlight the top of them a little bit, just right in this area right below the moon. We'll leave the rest of it light. And then what's in the sky gets reflected in the water. So underneath the moon, we want to see a reflection from the moon here. So what I'm going to do is, here's my moon. I'm going to put a reflection, and the water surface is flat, right? We're not having a storm, so we got flat surface. So I want, when I color in the water, I want to color it in with kind of flat horizontal lines. I don't want to make all my lines the same size, and some of them get just a little bit of a wave to them. So I'm putting a little line there, a little line there. I want to create like a column of light, but it's going to get smaller as it goes down. So I'm skipping some spaces in between my lines, adding some more wavy lines. I want it to kind of look like it's underneath my moon here. So we want to go this way. This is the area I want to think of filling in. So we want to skip some spaces. The farther away from the moon it gets, the more spaces we're going to see. Bigger, wider spaces. And it's getting skinnier as it goes down. See how wide I started here? We want my little column of lines to get skinnier as it goes down. So I'm making lots of short little lines. I'm leaving black spaces in between them. And I'm letting it get skinnier and skinnier until we get all the way down to the ground here. So I got a nice reflection of the moon going on. See how my reflection gets lighter in the middle? That's where I'm going to come back in and press a little harder and add a few more lines right in the middle here. I still want to leave a few little black spaces showing. So think of pressing harder and go right over the top of some of the lines you just made. Don't cover up all the black space. But come along here and add a few more light ones. We don't have to go all the way to the bottom with the light ones, but that really helps it look like reflection. Now let's look at what we can draw on our tree limb. I'm going to get my pieces of black paper here. And we'll draw a bunch of tree limbs here. Imagine here's one of our tree limbs coming out, right? And here's another tree limb coming out. Here's another tree limb coming out. Here's another tree limb coming out. So let's see what all we could draw. If you want, and you draw right on your paper here. If you want to draw an owl, he's kind of an oval shape for his body, right? And he's got a little pointed tail hanging down. His tail doesn't hang way down. And I made kind of half of a circle for his head. The one thing that always looks cool on an owl to me is he's got these ears. His feathers stick out almost like little points on the side of his head. So if I was putting an owl in my tree, the first thing I'd do is very lightly with my pencil, I'm pressing a little harder so you guys can see the lines. I'd draw an oval sitting right here on the tree. The tail's going to hang down past the oval, so I can put a little triangle on the end.
Big tails.
Some owls might have it like a big wide, almost like a fan, so they might have a tail like that. So whichever kind of tail you want to put, you can create your own species of owl. Then on top of your oval, you want to put a little half circle, kind of like a letter C upside down for the owl's head. Can you see this? I know I'm not pressing very hard. Okay. Across the top, owls' top of their heads kind of look flat. So I'm going to put a little line and connect his little ears almost like points on the side. Okay. Then to highlight him, just like we highlighted the tree, we'd think of feathers just on this one side. We want to highlight this one side. So I'd come in here and make sure he gets nice and light. I'm going to make some feathers kind of curve into his body here. I'll make his head nice and light here. I'm going to light up his whole head, I think. And his little ears that stick out. And then if he's got this nice fanny tail, I'll light up this side of the tail. But on this side, we're going to leave him just a little light. We're not going to fill in the white on that side of him, okay? What if we made a snake in the tree? I'm going to come down here and use this limb I made. If a snake was wrapped around the tree, we're going to see the coil, the first coil of the snake come up like this and down like this. So we're going to make a curve like this and a curve like this and connect them with a curve on the top and a curve going the other way on the bottom. Then I'm going to put another curve here. I'm going to just make all my little curves and they're going to get a little smaller and closer to the tree. Okay, so I got this first one, then I made another one, and they're getting a little smaller and a little closer to the tree limb. Then I'm going to come and add the bottom, curve it up. We want to get this curve going this way. Add another scallop till it comes over to this side and put a curve up here. Add another little scoop and put a curve up there. Another little scoop and put a curve up there. Another little scoop, put a curve up here. And then we'll just have his little snaky head come off here. Their heads are kind of like a diamond here. And then we'll come down here. So here's my snake sticking off my limb. And I'd want to come and highlight the top of each one of his little curves. Leave a little bit of black showing in between so we can see where his curves go. See the little bit of black I've left in between? Now we're going to have a really scary picture with a snake coiled up here. I might paint his whole head white like we did the owl. And then this is just a little lighter on the bottoms. That kind of helps cover up. So I got a snake coiled on my limb. We could see his tail. If this was coiled around, we could put one more hump here and let his tail be hanging down like that. This is our tree limb coming across here. The tree limb gets highlighted too. So come along here and give a little bit of highlight on your tree limb, just on one side of it. Okay. What about a cat? How about if we made a cat? If we put a cat, we'll see, we're going to lay our cat down. The cat would be laying down on the tree limb, I'm thinking, or standing up. What do you think, Mr. Joey? Our cat could be standing up looking at the moonlight? Okay, so let's give him an upside down U for a body. Here's our cat's body. Give him a little round head on top. Cats have nice little pointy ears, so put two little triangles on top of his head. And we're looking at him from the back, okay? And usually we'd see their back legs make these nice little hips like this. So we'll see their back legs poking out just a little bit. And we'll give this cat a nice long tail like this. So give him a nice long skinny U for a tail. Okay, so we made an upside down big U for his body. Made a circle on top for his head. Put two little triangles on top of his head there. And then come give him these little curves down at the bottom where his like big back hips would be sitting up. And then you want to come in and give him some highlight on this side of his head too. So think of highlighting this side of his head and this ear. We can highlight this side of his body. And this side of his hip here, right down to the tree limb. And on this other side, we're not going to press so hard. We can give just a little bit on this other side. Maybe we'll see this edge of his tail a little bit more. So we're going to leave that side of his body light. And then we'd highlight this tree limb right where he's sitting on the top of the tree limb. Okay. Now, if we're looking at the cat from the back, could we maybe see some of his whiskers? And on this side, the whiskers would get lit up. This side would make them very faint because the moonlight's not hitting those whiskers as much. So we got a cat sitting in a tree. We got a snake in the tree. We got an owl in the tree. We've got all kinds of things going on here. Okay. So you decide what you want to put there. I do want to show you how we're going to add a little color. So I'm going to maybe put a little family of Carolina wrens on my tree limb. Since I like odd numbers, I'll put 3 of them. So I'm going to just draw tiny little circles here. Carolina wrens aren't very big. I'm going to put a little circle on top of their heads. And I'm going to give them just a little tail, little pointy tail hanging down.
Big tail.
It's a pretty big tail for Carolina wren. I might have them turn just a little bit so I see their little beak. So I make sure I know this is a bird. Okay, so got a little beak on them. So remember, whatever we draw, we're going to come on the side facing the moon and make it lighter. So their beak's going to light up and their little top of their head's going to light up. Okay, so I'm going to light up this side of this one. This one's a fat one. Light up his little head there, make his little beak a little brighter. Light up that side of his tail. Do the same thing on this fat little guy here. Light up his head, light up his beak, light up this side of his tail. Okay? And don't forget, you want to come and light up the top of the branch some. And then we can keep going up this side of the tree too. And remember, when you're coloring and lighting up this side of the tree, when we get to a limb, we're going to light up the top side of the limb. I actually lit up the bottom side with the moon shining up here. So we're going to light up a little bit of the bottom side there. As the tree goes up, I'm going to have less and less highlight on it because it's kind of getting out of where the moonlight's going to hit it. I'm going to get little bit on this other side, so I'm going to press really lightly to just put a little edge over here so my tree looks round. So I'm just going to go up and down here and put a little bit of light edge here. Maybe at the bottom I can curve it in a little bit. Okay, so our tree's got a little bit of highlight and color on it. We got highlight in the water. We got highlight on our trees. If you've got a light blue and a dark blue maybe, I'm going to put a little bit of light blue in my sky right down here next to where my trees are. So I'm going to color, I'm just coloring straight across. I'm pressing the hardest right by the trees here, right along the tops of the trees. I'm going to press a little harder so we can see that nice light blue. And then I'm going to press a little lighter and a little lighter as it goes up. See, the lighter you press, the more black paper we see. So my light blue's looking darker and darker, isn't it? So I pressed really hard next to the trees, then loosen the grip on your pencil and press a little lighter. How are you guys doing? If you want to leave what you're going to put on your limb, you can do that after we finish all the pictures. So if you want to think a little bit more about what you're going to put there, don't worry about getting that done right now. We can come along and add our sky. We're going to add some color in the water. And I'm going to show you how to splatter some stars. So if you want to come back to your whatever's going to go on your limb, you can come back and do that later. Don't worry about doing that right now. Okay. So I pressed a little lighter as I came up in the sky. Now my black paper's making it darker. I'm going to add a few of these little light blue ripples in here where my reflection is too. So it'll be like the moonlight has lit up our water a little bit and we're seeing a little bit of these blue lines in the water. I like a little bit of that blue in the water there too. I think that looks nice. And I like this dark blue. I'm going to come down here at the bottom of my water, just like I did putting some light blue in the sky. I'm going to give us some dark blue in the water down here. I want to keep my lines going straight across. Even though my ground's curving this way, I want my lines to go straight across so it looks like water. When we start drawing this way, it makes our water look like it's coming up in a waterfall. I want this to look like flat water, so I want my lines to go straight across. So they just dead end into the ground there. And I'm going to bring them up and up. I'm going to make a few little lines go right across my reflection there. I'm going to start leaving some more spaces. I don't have to color the whole thing in. I just want the black paper to make it look like it's dark nighttime water, which can look kind of black. Over here, I'm pressing really lightly because I don't need to see that much color over here. The moonlight is lighting up this way, so that's where I'm going to see the most color. So we'll bring a little blue. I could put a little blue up here, right at the horizon area. Let it run right up to my tree. I don't want to put blue on my tree. I also don't think I don't want all my blue to be on just one side of the tree. So I'm going to put some blue on the other side too. Okay. And I'll put a little bit down here too. Just that helps give the impression that our water goes behind where this tree is. I don't want it to look like our water stopped for some reason. So I'm going to put a few of these little dark blue lines going through my reflection. And I'm even going to come up above my sky here. I'm going to start about in the middle where I was putting the light blue. And I'm going to blend some dark blue right over that light blue. So I'm not pressing very hard. I don't want it to look like a stripe. And then as I get away from that dark blue up towards the moon, I'm pressing just a little harder. You can't see it very much, but I want to give a hint of this dark blue in the sky. So I'm going to press harder as it comes up to the moon. I'm pressing a little harder as it goes over here. I'll put a little bit down in my light blue so they kind of combine. So it looks like all one sky. And I'm going to let the sky just take over in the black. Now, same as we didn't want the water to look like I'm putting a little in between all my bird tails there. Same as I didn't want the water to look like it stopped on one side of the tree, I don't want the sky to look like it stops on this side of the tree. So I put a little light blue over here. I want to put a little dark blue over here too. So I'm going to come right along here with the dark blue. I'm going to press lightly where it overlaps the light blue. Press a little darker as it comes up, and then press lightly again because I want it to just fade away into the black there. What do you think? We're getting some nice color in here. I got nice reflections. Now, take your black. We have a black colored pencil. And to really make it dramatic, we're going to fill in some of the trees on the horizon with the black. So this drawing is going to have two shades of black. A lighter black, and then we're going to get some really dark black right in the middle of the picture. This is going to really draw our eye right into the middle here. So I'm only putting it in the middle here. I'm going to let it fade out over here. I'm going to put some on our tree. So right over on this side, right where I put some of my white reflection, I can come in with the black too. Excuse me. And then I can come right up this side of the tree. This is going to be a trick we're going to use too, because I'm going to show you right now how to make some stars. And when I splatter my stars, what do you think is going to happen? When I splatter stars in my sky, what's going to happen right here? I'm probably going to get some stars on top of my tree and on top of my birds. So we'll use the black colored pencil as we go up. I can add a little bit of black colored pencil right down on my ground too. So we can draw a little, make it a little more dramatic right here in the middle, down at the ground. So we'll make a little bit more dramatic dark right here in the middle. We've got a little bit of dramatic black here. Put some more black right in the base of the tree here, and we're going to continue that up the tree. Okay? Now, here's how we're going to splatter stars. Take your styrofoam plate. We can come back and keep adding more color. This is really cool to add too. You take your white and see how I've made some little dots coming out from the side of my reflection. Have you ever looked at the water, and when something's shining on the water, it almost looks like sparkly diamonds? A way to get that sparkly effect in the water is to add these little dots. Instead of a whole line, come out here with some little dots. You put some little dots in your reflections, it's going to make the water look sparkly. You can add a few little dots. But let me show you about making stars. I'm going to take your toothbrush, get out this little cup that we gave you of white paint. We don't need much. I probably gave you way more white paint than you need, but this will be fun. You can try this on all kinds of stuff today. Take a little bit of white paint. See how much I got on my brush? And I'm going to squish that onto my plate. So just pushed it right off my brush. I'm going to get one more little scoop like that. And push it off my brush. Okay? Now, since I still got good white paint in there, I'm going to put my lid back on. And I'm going to take my container of water. And I'm going to dip the brush in and put 1, 2, 3. I'm going to dip it 3 times. But then I need to stir this water into my paint. So don't spread it out over your whole plate. What we want to do is make one little puddle here in the middle. So brush in from the outside of your puddle with your water. Brush in like this. Stir that water into the paint so it gets nice and thin. And we have a nice little flat puddle like this. You want to take the brush, nestle that brush in like that. And then hold your brush over your paper. You might want to put some newspaper down, okay? As long as it's wet, we'll be able to wipe it up. But I want you to hold it, and we're going to pull it to the side. So I'm going to hold it about this high over my paper, okay? And I'm going to pull it to the side, okay? So I'm going to take my finger, and I'm going to pull the brush to the side. Lift your brush higher to get some tiny stars. And we're going to fill the whole sky with stars. I kept them up here in the top of my paper. And I want just a few reflected in the water. Okay? So I'm going to hold the brush up really high, just right over this part of the water. But hold the brush up high. And see if you can put a few in the water there. There we go. You can fill that night sky with all kinds of stars. Now, put your toothbrush in the water so it doesn't dry out. Here's what we need to do. Because if you got any paint on the table, wipe it up while it's wet. We're going to use our black pencil. The stars should dry really fast because it had a lot of water with it. Oops, I dropped my black pencil. Mr. Joey's going to grab my black pencil. What we're going to do is when your stars get nice and dry, we don't really want it to look like the stars are on top of the tree. Do stars show up on top of the tree? No. So we're going to come in with our black pencil and we're going to go over where those stars are with the black colored pencil. And that's going to black those little stars out just right on the surface of the tree here. So we can go over any place where you got a star that you didn't want a star there. You can take your black pencil and go right over it. And that's going to do 2 things. It's going to make our tree stand out because it's going to get this really dark black on it. It's going to cover up the stars, so it makes all the stars now look like they're behind the tree, which is where they belong. It's going to make our tree stand out with this nice dark black, so you're going to go all the way up the tree trunk with the black. I'm going to cover up any place the stars hit. I don't want the stars on my limb either. So I'm going to come across on my limb in between my little birdies here. I got a little bit on this limb up here. So we're going to come across with my black pencil. Okay, did I get all the stars off my tree? I think so. I don't want my stars on my birds either, so I'm going to come highlight the back side of my birds with my black pencil too. So they're going to stand out. Okay. If I've got a spot where it looks like the stars on the white part of my bird, I'm going to go over that with my white colored pencil. There we go. Okay, I'll go over my stars with my white colored pencil there. I can go over my moon a little bit. So it's almost gonna, my little stars can just look like some speckles. If you want to draw a person sitting down here against the tree, let's draw a person really, really quick. Because I think person looking up at the stars will be fun. So if this is where they're gonna sit, this is like halfway through the person's body. I'm gonna put a little circle right where I want them to sit. Okay, can you see my circle? There's my little circle where they're gonna sit. Okay, so I'm gonna have their back, I'm gonna put a upside down U here for the top of their body, and I'm gonna let their shoulders, which is the top of the U, lean right against the tree. So make a U come down. This will be the person's body. This is like their hips and their rear end sitting there. And then we're gonna make a V. We're gonna have their knee pulled up like this, and then go down like this. So this would be their legs. So we'll put the top of their leg coming up here, coming down here to where their foot's gonna be, and then we're gonna see their foot. Just the top half of their foot. Okay? And I need to put a little neck on my person. So put 2 little lines for neck, and I'm gonna put their oval head right here at the top. Okay, so now my person is looking at the stars. We need to fill them in a little bit. Maybe their elbow's gonna rest on their knee. So if this is their shoulder, I'll put their arm out here. And we'll give them a hand out here. Just draw like a little mitten out here. Okay? So we would want to color in a little bit of this person. I'm going to make the back side of the person really dark with my dark. Okay, and I don't need to see my circle anymore, so I'm going to color in their body like this. Leaning against the tree is going to be blocked from the moonlight. So I'm going to come right up the back. Underneath on their legs wouldn't get any moonlight on it, so I want to make this really dark under here. This really dark coming down their leg. Make the bottom of their foot really dark. Okay, we'll make the bottom of their arm kind of dark. Okay. Oops, back of their head. There we go. So we'll make the back of them dark, and we'll light up the front a little bit. So use your white colored pencil to give a little reflection on the front of them, on the top of their arm here, on the front of their neck, on the front of their face a little bit. Go about halfway up the oval that you made for their face and make it come down and in like a tiny little triangle sticking out. So our person has a nose. Okay. Light up the front side of their leg over here. And now our person's watching the stars with the Carolina wrens above their head, with all the stars in the sky. You can go back with your white. You can add some more of the little dots so your water really sparkles. Put some little dots coming across, little dashes, little dots coming out from your ripples so we get sparkly water. Don't forget you want to go back. Oops, there we go. Don't you forget you want to go back with your black and color in the tree wherever you got any stars land on it. Make sure you get some nice dark black on your horizon here and on the grass down here. And don't forget to put a reflection on the back side is black and the white front side's white. So I want to see what everybody decided to put in their tree. If we have some cats, or any pythons, or little birds, if you put a person. So take us some pictures. Let us know what you decided to put here. Let me see how your stars turned out. I have some really big stars in the sky, and I have a lot of little tiny stars. When you live on an island like we do, where there's not a lot of street lights and neon lights, we see tons of stars in the sky. My sister Deb lives near a big city in Ohio. She doesn't see half this many stars in her sky. So make sure and take some pictures so we can see how your starry night turned out. And be sure and tag us at Idea Studio so we can see your pictures. And we will see you all tomorrow. Bye.